Hello, first year parents. My name is Dusty Lanier, and I am a proud 2006 graduate of Wake Forest University. And it's my honor and pleasure to get to come to work here every single day. Before I get started with a few introductions, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. I know that many of you submitted questions through our form in advance. We will do our very best to get to every question tonight. You can also utilize the Q&A function to ask a question as you hear more about our Office of Personal and Career Development. No question is too small, and we are excited to engage with you. I also want to mention that we'll be recording tonight's webinar. So if you can't stay for the entire time or you'd like to rewatch, we'll be sending out a link later this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, tonight, we're all here to talk about the Office of Personal and Career Development. I mentioned that I graduated in 2006, and in many ways, Wake Forest is quite the same, but in many ways, it's better. And in one of those ways, it's our Office of Personal and Career Development. We have really become one of the nation's leading offices. I have the good fortune to meet with my colleagues across the country, and they are always so envious of our Office of Personal and Career Development. They've built one of the most innovative operations across the country. And really, when you look at the stats, I want to tell you parents that 98% of our students who graduated last year were enrolled in a graduate program or employed within 6 months of graduation. Now, that's a return on investment. Many of the reasons that our office is so successful is because of the leadership that you're going to hear from tonight. We have the chance to hear from Andy Chan, who is the Vice President for our Office of Personal and Career Development. And he's going to talk with Heidi and Mercy, who lead our teams and really engage with your students on a daily basis. Andy comes to us with over the last 14 years when he joined us from Stanford. He was an entrepreneur. He's helped innovate Wake Forest in many ways, including our mentorship center, our alumni center, which your students will care about in a few years, our summer immersion program for our pre-college students, and our school for professional studies. So I'm going to stop there and ask Andy to join us.
Thank you, Dusty, and welcome parents, class of 2027. We're really glad to be with you tonight and look forward to sharing with you as much information as we can to help you understand what your students are going through when it comes to thinking about their becoming ready for life and career after college. As Dusty mentioned, we've been doing this for quite a while, so we have a long track record of success, and our students are very, very engaged. In fact, just this last week, we won an award from Handshake, which is the top platform for all students in terms of finding jobs. About close to 1,500 schools around the country use Handshake as a platform, and they gave us the Career Spark Award to say that we were one of the best schools at engaging students on a college campus, and so we're really proud of that. I've got a great team of leaders. We couldn't do it without them, and so I'd like to introduce them now. One is Mercy Iadiel, and the other is Heidi Robinson. So hi, Mercy. Hi, Heidi. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Hey, Andy. Hey, Wake Forest parents. Good to see all of you.
I'm going to just give you a really brief overview as to what each of them do. So Heidi basically oversees all of our teammates who are in the Office of Personal Career Development on the college side. So all first and second year students, all the juniors and seniors who don't go to the business school, of which each year about 250 to 300 go to the business school. So a good 4,900 students, or actually of that, about a good 1,000 students in the junior and senior class, Heidi has underneath her. And then we also do, some of her team helps with our alumni, and some of her team helps with some of the other grad students and some of the programs around the university. So she has a lot of students to worry about, and she's amazing. She also helped create, in fact, was a creator of our college to career courses. And we actually have an online version of those courses in a product called Career Core that our students can get access to. And Heidi's done that also. She too is a huge innovator and a person who the students really love across campus. She also is a faculty member, teaches in our classes, and knows our students very, very well. Mercy and I have worked together for quite a long time. I think both Mercy and Heidi we've worked together for over a decade, each of them. And then Mercy and I actually worked together when we were at Stanford. So Mercy has had a lot of experience. She's worked in alumni relations, employee relations, corporate partnerships, and career coaching for alumni, career coaching for students. And she oversees all the coaches in the business school, both undergrad and graduate, as well as those who are in Charlotte and online. And she's part of the executive team for the dean of the business school. So we've done a lot at Wake Forest, and we're really excited to be able to share some of that with you because we love working with first-year students. Every year is new, every year is different, every class is different. But I will tell you, for me, the class of 2027 is fairly special. I actually am very fortunate. I have a niece who's a senior who's actually in the band, who's graduating this coming year. And then I have two nieces actually in the class of 2027. So I will assure you, we will take special care of all the class of 2027 because I know they will be unhappy if their friends aren't well employed or in great grad schools when they get out of here. So with that, let me start with talking to Heidi. I'm going to go back and forth with different questions. So Heidi, talk a little bit about just our philosophy about how we work with students, why we engage them so early in the process, and what we do, and maybe even a little bit about like, why do we use the phrases personal and career development? So there's a lot in that, but I'll let you talk for a little bit.
Absolutely. And I just want to echo what Mercy and Andy have both said, which is, parents, we are so grateful that we have the privilege of being part of your children's Wake Forest experience. It is really special. And thank you for sending such a special class to us. Andy, to your point, we do believe in early and intentional beginnings with career readiness. And in fact, some of the ways that we think about that are life readiness. And that's one of the reasons that we believe students need to should get started as soon as they're here. In fact, parents, even though we're just getting to know you right now, we actually started getting to know your students even before they got here. Your students filled out a profile as part of their orientation for the platform that Andy was mentioning called Handshake. When they fill out that profile for us, it lets us begin to send them information about the things that they say they're interested in. And to Andy's point about it being personal and career development, we really believe that each one of us brings our whole self into this process. So we believe the first question that any first year should answer is, what matters to me? What am I interested in? What are the problems or the challenges in this world that I want to be a part of solving? So we do start early with them. We are a part of their orientation in the chapel. And in fact, I hope you ask your child about getting to fly an airplane, little paper airplane that they made in the chapel as part of their launch here at Wake Forest. We start inviting our first year students to come into our office in their first semester, not because we want them to go ahead and begin thinking about a job or foreclosing early on even the kinds of things they want to study, but to get to know us and to know that we are on their side from the very beginning, that we are here to support them as they begin to explore what is at Wake Forest and the things they want to do here that become a part of their career story.
Thank you, Heidi. One thing related to that. So we have some students who probably feel like they know exactly what they want, or they know they're going to grad school. And because of that, they sometimes think, I don't need to go to the career office. Can you talk a little bit about how we help students who, even those who know what they want, especially thinking about graduate school, law school, medical school, for example, how we help them and how we can help them in a very big way, and why that's important for them to also utilize our services?
I love that question. We do talk a lot about career readiness and career and life readiness, and certainly graduate and professional schools are a big part of that. One of the great things for students, I'm going to start with the graduate and professional school piece first. For students who are thinking that that is part of their path or feel very clear about that, we want to really optimize the kinds of things they can do on campus. If it is a pre-health program that they're interested in, how can we start getting hours? How can we think very intentionally about the kinds of experiences, the kinds of leadership opportunities they can begin planning for now to really put themselves in the best position for their own candidacy? We want to be able to come alongside them with that. We want them to develop their first resume. For students who are interested in something where perhaps in financial services, one of the things that we might think about is the application for going ahead and being a part of things like the Dow Jones Club, or even the Finance Club, or different opportunities where they may be able to get some kinds of practical experience in some of the campus organizations, regardless of whether someone is certain that they want to go to graduate school or into a very competitive field, potentially into the business school. We want to help them go ahead and get their feet wet and start wading in.
That's great. You've provided a good segue into a question I want to ask Mercy, which is a lot of what you mentioned there are just experiences both on campus, close to campus, maybe off campus. And there's a word that we oftentimes use is internships. And Mercy and Heidi both know a lot about them, but Mercy in particular, because her whole employer relations teams worked with the many employers who actually like to recruit our students. Mercy, can you talk a little bit about the idea of having an internship versus other experiences and the value of them, given that as a first-year student, it can be hard to get those kind of things because you're competing against older students and the employers don't want you. Like, how do you as a first-year student, like, make it worthwhile? What should you do?
Well, we've actually evolved our definition in how we track what students are doing over the summer. So we actually like to call it summer experience, because it also takes the pressure away from our students and thinking, oh, I've got to go find some formal internship. And every time I go out to look, on a job posting site, there isn't anything for me as a first year student. And so we really like to debunk that myth that even the naming convention of an internship is actually too narrow for how we like our students to think about things. There are certainly formal internships that are available, but we feel like the real value comes when you're thinking more broadly and you're actually taking a step back and thinking about the key skills that you are trying to develop through each of these summer experiences. So we really encourage students to think about a search process in that way, and to really try to identify organizations that they're curious about. These internships are not, or summer experiences are not just for a professional experience, but it can also be very informative in how students think about their majors and the different courses that they may want to take while they're at Wake Forest, thinking about that longer term career goal that they may have.
So what I hear you saying though is then, like, this first summer, it's not like, is there a guarantee you have to have like this 10-week internship getting paid? Otherwise it's a bust and the rest of your career is messed up. It's like, you can have a lot of different kinds of experiences. Could be shadowing, projects,
volunteering,
right. It could be a lot of different things. And so it's not like, again, this first year is like the make all break all. If you don't do it right, then everything else is shot. Is that correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Great. That's great. Actually, Heidi, can you talk a little bit about that in terms of ways people can do like mini type internships and some of the providers that we partner with that enable that to happen?
Absolutely. And just to echo what Mercy said, internships we sometimes call it the dreaded I word. We would say from some wonderful national publications that when we're sitting in orientation with students, 80% of them, 80% of first years are thinking about, how am I going to get an internship? And that's one of the paradigms we really want to flip for them, is to sort of, we say, liberate yourself from the dreaded I word. Instead, we want it to be experience. And there are some wonderful opportunities that are called micro internships. And that has actually been a big shift for students, particularly first years. A micro internship still counts as a great experience. It's typically project-based. And so that might happen with a nonprofit in someone's hometown as a adjacency to a summer job, but it can also help be found, this kind of help, on a couple of different platforms. One is called Parker Dewey. And Parker Dewey is a wonderful resource. And these are paid opportunities where students can apply and go ahead and take there might be a project that's a 2-hour project. There might be one that's a 16-hour project, even more. Regardless, students can apply and sometimes have those experiences extend beyond the initial project. Additionally, there is a similar platform that is for nonprofits, and it's called Catch a Fire. And Catch a Fire is another place where students can pick up projects that count as professional experience. We can help them put either one of those on their resume, on their Handshake profile, or their LinkedIn profile. And last but not least is something called the Forage. And the Forage is another opportunity for students to go ahead and get some professional experience. It is unpaid, but it is with some very high profile names. Some of those that seem to catch students' attention are Bank of America, Lululemon, some that are very known to them and exciting. What Forage promises is that if a student does that project, that it will be reviewed by someone from the corporation.
Great. Thanks, Heidi. So, Mercy, can I go to another question? Is that all right? Or do you want to add something?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to say part of the challenge maybe for parents, they may want their child to be earning some money over the summer too. And so these ideas that we're giving you can be done in addition to other things that are more money generating, if you will, to cover some of their expenses. But I also want to put it out there that we also have a career readiness fund in which if your child has a need-based kind of like a stipend is what we call it, and they can show what they're going to get out of their summer experience, they can apply to a summer experience fund where they can gain some money from that experience.
Great. Thank you, Mercy. Appreciate that. So one thing that comes up a lot is this choice of thinking about the importance of the major. And I'd love for Heidi to talk a little bit how we talk to students about majors and choices and how to help them. And then Mercy, if you could talk a little about what employers say with respect to like how much your major matters. So Heidi, why don't you go first?
One of the things that we love to say to students is that they have a lot of runway to select a major at Wake Forest. But additionally, we say you are not married to your major. In other words, we want to make sure that students understand that your major is not the same as your career path. It is deeply embedded in the way they think about careers and majors. And so much so that if we were to say to a group of students right now, if you study psychology, you will be, and fairly uniformly, students will answer a psychologist, because that is how deeply ingrained it is in so many of us. But at Wake Forest, what we have promised our students is we have made a commitment that our liberal arts students, our majors, they have an opportunity for an engaged career with their liberal arts degree. In fact, we invite them to go to a place on our website that is called Where Do Deeks Go? It's on our landing page, and students can go ahead and see 14 to 16 years of institutional data on where psychology majors go. They're often surprised when they see that students who are psychology majors are great in management consulting, or even in advertising or marketing, or in a host of other things that are all detailed right there. So we encourage students to go ahead and not go foreclose too early on what that major has to be, because what we want to do is have them study what they love, get the grades that they want for opening doors regardless of their major.
Great, Heidi. And how about you, Mercy? What do employers say about the importance of major and that as a sort of screening in kind of or out kind of factor?
Well, let me start with saying that a lot of the employers that come to Wake Forest really just love Wake Forest talent, primarily given their work ethic, their leadership skills, communication, analytical thinking. I mean, these are the kinds of things that our employers say to us that they see from our talent, which is why they keep coming, and new employers keep coming every year. And so from an employer perspective, there are very few jobs that they will only post to limited majors. If you think about careers in accounting, I mean, that makes sense that there is a body of knowledge that they have to have coming out of this program to even qualify for the CPA. Some financial services also require certain knowledge as they come into those careers. Outside of those two areas, it's really wide open. If you think about consulting, if you think about healthcare, technology, I mean, these organizations just really want bright young people, great talent, who come in and can really demonstrate their abilities, and who know how to think and learn and can play along with others to accomplish great things. So our students really meet a lot of that criteria, and that's how we're able to find success with a lot of the employers that come, even to find internship opportunities for students.
One of the things also I will mention is that, as Mercy mentioned earlier around skills, so there's certain times in majors you might find maybe the skill that I want to develop to get a certain kind of role isn't in there. But one of the things that we have as a resource at Wake Forest is that all students have free access to LinkedIn Learning. And Heidi actually has students use LinkedIn Learning to learn things like Excel or visualization tables or digital marketing, puts it on their resume, and then a student who might be, I'll make it up, a philosophy major, all of a sudden has it on their resume and employers are talking to them. So that is a free resource that all students should say, wow, if I actually have some time during break or summer, or I want to learn a new skill that could actually help me, that's very much available. The other thing is that I think, Mercy, can you talk a little bit about some of the programs the business school has in particular that are designed during the summers that allow students to learn about other interesting career areas no matter what they major in?
Absolutely. So one of our signature programs is a summer management program. Actually, Heidi teaches in this program as well. It's a very popular program that students take, and it's around, I think, 12 hours of credit that they get just for this particular program. And applications start opening up here pretty quickly. And it is an application-based program, and Professor Ben King is just top notch. He has managed and led this program for many years and invites employers to come in and partner with him on some of the delivery as well. So that's one of the programs. Another one we have, particularly for finance majors, is Pre-Wall Street program. Now that's not necessarily in the summer, but it is a program where you do not have to be in the business school to apply for that program. And so that application process is actually happening right now. And students get accepted in their second semester right now, or actually next semester of their first year. And so they come into the program as sophomores and start with the pre-Wall Street track. There's also a 5th year program called the Masters of Science and Management program. So if you really want your student to have those business-like skills, there are several pre-experience programs that can support your student. Masters of Science in Management, Masters of Science in Accounting, Masters of Science in Business Analytics. And none of those require pre-business skills before you come into the program.
And we have quite a few grads who go onto those programs. They oftentimes get scholarships and special like early entrance abilities because they're great students. So that's something that also is an advantage for students interested in that track. So Heidi, one of the things that I get a sense of is that we have quite a few students who come who have no idea what they want to do. Oftentimes the words they'll say is, I'm totally lost, or there's really nothing for me, or I have too much stress of other things I'm worried about. And so I'll get there when I get there, which will probably all parents will be May of their senior year. And talk a little bit about, I guess, on the one hand, your courses and the value of the courses. And then if a student does get on a course, how they can engage with our office and our coaches so they can like get moving forward, even though they might get into a course later. So I'll let you talk about both of those things.
Andy, this is something that is so near and dear to my heart, which is that I think a lot of students believe they have to have all the answers before they can walk into our office, and that we have an expectation that they have to know everything. And to the contrary, we want students to come in when they are asking those big questions. We want to explore alongside them and really focus on the things that they are interested in, the things that raise their energy. We know that the students who are in this first year class will pivot multiple times within their career. So we want to help them start exploring those things right now and not going ahead and being tied to any one idea. One of the things that I also think is really helpful is if we can go ahead and have students start in a structured college to career class exploration. We encourage students to begin taking those as early as the second semester of their first year. And if they are able, to work the courses in before the end of their sophomore year. All of the college to career courses are 1.5 credits. So yes, your student gets credit for doing those things that will be helpful to them, lower their stress, and perhaps have them feeling encouraged and confident. And we do that for a very particular reason. We want to elevate this process to a place that is also academic, so that alongside the other courses students are taking, they also have the opportunity to explore what that means for the kinds of things and experiences they want to have while they're in college, but also post-grad. The college to career courses can be taken separately. You might be able to squeeze in one in your first year and another in your sophomore year. And that's really the beauty of having them be half semester. Other things, Andy, you asked me about other opportunities for students to engage. And just to very specifically let students know that they don't have to have an appointment to come in. Monday through Thursday, 1:30 to 4:30, students can drop in for a 15-minute get to know you appointment. And on Thursdays, we have what we call open office hours, where students can come on in, grab a seat, have some candy if they'd like to. We play music, and they can get coaching in real time. They can stay for 15 minutes. They can stay for the whole time. But really, it's to let them know that they've got support when they want it.
Great, Heidi, thank you. Can you also speak to the fact that we have coaches who are sort of dedicated to different divisions and a little bit about how that works? Because I think sometimes students may say, well, I know I'm a science student, but they have coaches who are really good with sociology students, but maybe you can speak to how well we're sort of divided up and allocated there.
Absolutely. So all students in the college have a coach that is dedicated to their discipline. Every student, regardless of their major, has a coach that is specializing in the kind of degree program in which they find themselves. So each student has a coach that they can go to associated with their major, but we also like to say some students may develop a special affinity for one particular coach because they clicked and that's the way that it goes. So really, students have choices. They can go to a coach associated with their major, or they can go to a coach that they feel gets them. And we want students to feel like somebody gets them up in our office. So they really have latitude in choosing the kind of coaching that they want, major specific, or just someone that they are like, this person understands what I'm after here. So I like that idea that students always know that they have allies in our office.
I will also mention that Heidi and her team, they have great relationships with so many people across campus. We talk a lot about why we have students coming through our office, and at the same time, we have our staff all over the campus in different academic departments, partnering with faculty. We have so many faculty friends and so many different small groups of different types where actually every year Heidi and her team go and they meet with basically every single affinity group, every single fraternity and sorority, every single department. Like, it is just like we're everywhere. And so your student really can't say, like, I don't know what they do or where they are, because they'll see people on our team all over the place. And so so it's a little bit mostly just saying, I just got to be not afraid to come up and just say, hey, how can you help me out? Or like, how can I turn my high school resume into a college resume? I understand that's different, and it is different. And what we can do to take a basic resume where you think your student doesn't have experience, and all of a sudden they realize, well, I actually have interesting experiences. Actually, if you think about it, they had a bunch of experiences in high school that were really good, that got them into Wake Forest. We can even take those and take them to the next level to help them get that first summer experience, internship, whatever it might be. The other thing that now I want to go a little bit deeper into sort of areas a lot of students have interest in. So Mercy, the banking and finance world, somewhere between 15 to 20% of our students graduate going into that world. That does not all mean investment banking. It could be commercial,
Right.
it could be real estate, it could be insurance. It's like the whole world of financial services. Can you give us a little bit of a picture for, like, how do students find themselves being successful there? They don't all have to be accountants. They don't have to go into finance, but just a little bit about like that cycle, because it can feel a little crazy and competitive. And so maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Well, the most competitive is in the investment banking space, and then some of the other ones that you mentioned, particularly in private wealth, those can have internships early too. But it's mainly investment banking that has shifted their recruiting cycle almost a full 18 months ahead of schedule. So students are being asked to attend information sessions as early as the first semester of their sophomore year. And so the internship cycle really does start early, yes, for investment banking, but this is also true for consulting and some other big firms. I don't want to confuse the issue, but the more competitive the organization is and the more selective they are, the earlier that they're starting to recruit. So how does all this work? A lot of the banks do come in the sophomore year. They host information sessions and students are asked to participate in those. And as a team, we also offer sessions in what we call the world of financial services. So if a student isn't sure which path they want to go into, they can attend these sessions, and they happen twice a semester. And there's also really good information about what we offer to support students online. And maybe Patrick can share the link for that too. But it really does start early, and it's all the big banks that you think about. It's Bank of America, Barclays, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. I'm sure I'm missing Morgan Stanley. I know I'm missing several, Goldman Sachs. I'm just missing probably many, but there's probably at least 20 or banks or so that really come to campus to recruit our students for these roles.
That's great. Thank you. I mean, one of the things that I think we try to do is help make sure all the students know early, like if you're interested in this, get involved early, join the finance club, join the investment club, join the Dow Jones Club.
That's right.
Anything we have to offer where you can actually meet people who are in these rooms, whether it's virtual or in person, to start getting connected and learning about what this is all about. Like if oftentimes these different, these especially competitive places, if you don't show up, they don't think you are that interested. So you're not going to get higher on the list. So we try to help students know that that's just the way that it works. We also want you to know, like, it doesn't work out perfectly for everyone, no matter how hard it works out, because it's so much based on the state of the marketplace. And right now, the full-time investment banking job market is a little bit tight. And so the internship market is actually fine right now at the moment. So I just think you just have to be sort of in the world and in the game, and you don't have to be in the business school, actually. You can be in the college. We have students from all around the college who end up in the finance world. So we help them both on the OPCD side as well as on the business school side. So another set of students that I think a lot of parents probably think, this is my student. So I probably have like a science student who has told everyone, like, I think I'm gonna be a doctor. And we hear that from a lot of students. In fact, we estimate any year 30 to 40% at first, our students think they might be a doctor. The reality is every year, only like 5%, 3% actually go on to become a doctor right after college. So that means a lot of people are going to change their mind. And I know most of you parents out there are thinking, well, that's not going to be my child, but it just sort of happens because it's the process. Now, so Heidi, can you talk a little bit about sort of one, how do we help students who want to go to medical school, and how we work with our faculty and what the health committee is like and what we do and what they do? And then secondly, when a student changes their mind and realizes they don't want to be a doctor, how do we help them find other things and tell them, and maybe you can give some evidence for there is life after no longer being a pre-med?
That is a wonderful thing for parents to think about, how developmentally appropriate it is for a student to change their mind. So the average high school senior can name 10 kinds of careers, not necessarily ones they're even interested in, but it is what they've been exposed to or seen, even in the experiences that they've had, or even in the media. So we know that the students who come to Wake Forest, A, they were not your average high school senior, one, and two, they want to make a difference. And so it seems a very natural extension of that very smart students who are attracted to Pro Humanitate would think first about a career in medicine. For those students who do end up taking that path, there's something here at Wake Forest called the HPC, or the Health Professions Committee. And it is made up of our faculty who are in the sciences, and they work very closely with our office. We have all sorts of different events that we do with them to work on personal statements, to work on interviewing. We even have access to what we have termed coupons to go ahead and do some of the sorts of medicals, either the MCAT or the GRE, any kinds of preparation tests that they need. We have ways that we can help students get a discount on those through Kaplan. So for students who are heading that direction, whether it's medical school, pre-health, we support them very closely. In fact, one of our coaches his entire specialty is around STEM and pre-health. For those students who come in and they believe that they will be pre-health or STEM oriented in some way, and at some point they pivot, we have a host of different resources that we use to help them explore what that may mean. If indeed they want to give back, if they have a math and science orientation, or if they have a social impact kind of a wiring or spirit, we can help them pivot and explore within our own alumni network, and actually within our own faculty, people who've also made that decision, and the other kinds of options. I will never forget a senior who came in and she had been pre-med, and 2 weeks before her senior year walked in and she said, I'm not doing it. I'm actually doing something else entirely. And she pivoted quickly. She was in our office regularly, and she was in the movement that was happening in the fall. Now, that's one story. But have we seen sophomores who say, I'm actually not sure that this whole pre-med thing is what I'm supposed to do? Yes, he was in my classroom on Monday and said that he'd actually come up with another plan. He did that because he was willing to say, hey, you know what? I've done a little soul searching and I'm interested in certain ways of making impact, but I'm not sure that medicine is going to be the one that actually is my space for that. So we help students, whether they have that sort of epiphany, if you will, in their first year, whether they decide they're going the distance and we're helping them with applications, or if they get to closer to the end of their time when they need different kinds of experiences. I would say we want to be with students in those transitions as well as in the support space.
Great, thanks, Heidi. So Mercy, I'm gonna ask one more question before I pass this baton to Heidi to talk to our students. So we now have a lot of students who might have some interest in business. A lot of students like to go to the business school because Farrell Hall is such a beautiful place and it's so vibrant, and who would not want to go to school in that building? But the reality is that not everyone gets to go. And so maybe you can speak a little bit to, if you wanted to go, what do you have to make sure you do to get in, or at least have a shot at it? And then actually, if you don't get in, what are ways that we can make sure those parents, especially, but the students too, know that, wait, there's a life after not getting the business school? Because what we do know is that when we look at the outcomes of like students and jobs, grad school, 6 months after graduation, the business school students and the college students are pretty much on par. Like each year,
Right.
close to 98% of both sets of students, cohorts, are actually employed or in grad school and very happy. And so I know sometimes we think that, well, it's business school or bust, but sometimes that's not always the case. But can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. First of all, our application process for the business school is actually complete this year in terms of students had to apply by October 15th. And so they will be notified by January 15th in terms of their status. And it is a highly competitive process. I want to say we had over 500 applications for about 275 slots. And so just to give you a perspective of how competitive it is, I think this year already we're trending at a little over 3.7 for the average GPAs among these students. This is the first year that we've actually added an additional component where students can submit answers to 2 essay questions and a personal statement to actually help make their application more competitive. While our faculty in the business school are really, they really want to see those high GPAs in really challenging courses. They want to make sure that you can be successful once you're accepted. It was really promising to see that they're opening up to now more ways that students can show their background and skills and why they would be a good fit for the business school. A little bit earlier, I did talk about some of the ways that if your student does not get into the business school, it is not over for them. I can't stress enough how competitive our college students are with our business school. In fact, I want to say it was a couple of years ago, I think the college was at 98% at 6 months and the business school was at 97%. And the dean was having a conniption, right? Because it's like, how can the college beat the business students, And so it really does come down to how students perform, in their interviews. And I will have to say, I think that our college students have a slight advantage in this because they tend to be very diverse in their thinking. And that is really what our employers want, is someone that comes with a learning mindset and can be innovative and offer new perspectives. So, if any of you, and I mean this sincerely, want to connect with me about this and how we can help your child or student, reposition themselves to be competitive for a business career, I know all about that. Being a liberal arts major myself, I know all about how we can help your student do that. And we certainly want to help them. The other thing I just want to say is our career coaches work very closely with our college coaches. So we really see this as one team. So if there are students that really just want that business career path, we can certainly connect with those students as well and make sure that they are on the path for success.
Great. I'm going to say one last thing before I hand it over to Heidi, is that So I may have not mentioned, for example, careers in politics, government, and public policy. So we have a team that's incredibly connected in that area. We have thousands of alums working in that area. We have Wake Washington and all these connections. And so that's an area like if your student might be a poli-sci or sociology or some kind of major thinking about wanting to be in that part of the world, like we will help them. We have some people who are out there thinking, well, my student's a writer or a teacher, and same thing. We have hundreds, if not thousands of alums who are out there doing the same thing who we can connect them with. And we've seen that too. We have a lot of people who their kids are saying, I want to be in sports. And we can tell you, we know how to help students who think they want to be in sports. Our athletic department is incredibly powerful in terms of their willingness to have interns and work with them and connections in the market. And a lot about doing sports is being able to do whatever it takes to get your foot in the door and then networking your way through to get to the next thing and like being open to whatever might happen. We had a great conversation today with our athletic director, and he was like, I wasn't trying to be an athletic director. I was just trying to do a good job. And before you know it, he's an athletic director and he's one of the best in the country. So I just think that do not be in any kind of fear that, oh, we don't have something, because there's a chance that if there's a job out there in the world that your student wants, engineering students, those students are more employed than any other category of our students, faster, and they go to all different places and not just engineering school. Like these are the kind of things where you think, oh, you wouldn't know that, but we do. Like we see them all. And so your student's in good hands with us. We like to say it's your path and our support, and your child's unique path will be something we will definitely support. All right, I'm going to pass it to you, Heidi, and we'll come back in the last 5 to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And just to go ahead and reiterate something that Andy mentioned and that you may already sense from your students, it's that they really want to do this process well. And the process of figuring out the kinds of challenges or problems that you want to solve in the world, it can be very mysterious. And sometimes it can actually feel a little bit overwhelming. And if you are a first year, it may seem as if everybody else has it figured out and that you're the person who is still exploring. To that end, let me tell you that in this first year class, in your students class 2027, at the fall career fair, more than 20% of the students who were there were first years. They are impressive, they are interested, and they are listening. To the degree that we can help them as they explore, there's really no one that we can listen to who can tell us that story better than our students. So it is a pleasure for me to introduce 2 of our students, Mason and Anna Kate, who have started this process, but not very long ago, and may be able to speak to what it feels like to be a first-year student and what it's like to go ahead and get started, and how that may shift how you see different things at Wake Forest. So Anna Kate and Mason, I would love to have you introduce yourselves, and then to go ahead and let us know where you're from.
I can start. My name is Anna Kate Hunter, and I'm a first-year student here at Wake, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you, Anna Kate.
I'm also a first-year student. My name is Mazen Awada, and I'm from Glenview, Illinois.
Mazen and Anna Kate have both been in the classroom with the college to career courses, which was very much a fast start to exploring college to career things. Look at them both smiling. They're like, yes, it was. Thank you. Mazen, I wonder if you would speak to what it is like to jump in your first semester and kind of what your thoughts were regarding this whole college to career process.
Yeah, for sure. I remember the first day we did like a little hand raising activity to see like where everybody was from and like what grades we were in. And it was a little bit scary, I guess, at first to see so many seniors raise their hands and juniors. But after we did a couple of activities and especially the career fair, I noticed that like everybody is just there to help. And there's so many things that we can do as first years just to get ahead of the curve a little bit.
I would say both of you were impressive at the career fair. You were part of the 20+%. Anna Kate, I remember you coming up to me right after class. I'm not sure if it was the first day of class or the second day of class, but do you remember what you said? And then I'm wondering if you would also say what you did about it.
Well, so coming in to Wake, I was one of the many who was very, very undecided about my major. And in my head, I had it that My major was going to decide my entire future, and it was the biggest decision that I was ever going to make. And I was very overwhelmed coming into this class on the first day of my first day of college classes ever. I had this class and I came in and it was pretty overwhelming. But I quickly learned that I was able to take the time in this class to think about my future and go through the hard processes, but also necessary processes that you need to go through when working out and figuring out what you want to do. And this course really allowed me to do that.
Thank you, Anna Kate. Mazen, I'm going to pivot off what Anna Kate just said. I'm wondering if you could tell me what you've learned about yourself and sort of the big milestone or accomplishments that you feel like you've already kind of gotten some momentum behind you.
Well, one of the like most important processes I feel like I've done in this class was a bunch of the quizzes and tests we took on ourselves that gave us different values and personality traits. And after doing those, I kind of was able to look into some of the resources that you guys provided. I think one of them was called OneNet, and it showed a lot of the different careers that aligned with my values. And then some of the milestones I've completed now because of all the new knowledge I have, was able to look into these careers that was suggested to me and go through LinkedIn and see the alumni that we know in those spaces and schedule calls with them, which was a little nerve-wracking at first, but after you get the first one or two done, it's really easy and it's really informational. So I think that was really helpful.
Mazen, I love that you brought up the fact that you've already started networking, because I think that that's something, both of you nodding, Anna Kate, both of you jumped right in, and it doesn't matter what year a student is, there are some butterflies that get started in that process because it's new. I wonder, Anna Kate, if you would speak to how you felt when we said, we're going to reach out to people we know, and we're going to talk to some folks about exploring careers. Will you sort of speak to that process?
Well, the first experience that I kind of had networking and talking with companies was at the career fair, which was something that I was really, really nervous to go to. And I felt like I wasn't really supposed to be there because I knew that most companies weren't looking for freshmen and first years. But hearing about all the different various careers and different opportunities and just getting some advice from Wake alum and getting to hear about all these opportunities that were available to me was super, super helpful and helped me build a lot of confidence so that when we did have to connect with Wake alum on our LinkedIn, it was a lot easier for me to reach out and have the confidence to have this conversation and do a proper informational interview with several Wake alum who gave me a lot of insight and information into different career paths that I am interested in.
It's very impressive that both of you did it. Mazen, you were nodding. Anything you would add?
I just remember the career fair was like, it was like a little bit annoying at first because you would walk up to all these different booths and they'd be like, oh, you'd see them talking to the junior and they would like grab a resume and they would like talk to them for longer. But then like with a freshman would come up and they would just be more informational about it. But then after going through a couple of them and especially talking to the ones that were alumni, it was more like I realized that I was more there to like gather information, ask questions, and kind of learn more about the process, which I, at the end of the day, probably found more helpful.
We just have a few more minutes, and I'm so grateful to both of you for sharing what you've already done, which is, I just want to acknowledge for both of you a lot when we are sitting here at the end of October. So there's so much for both of you to celebrate. Both of you made resumes and got your first college resume started. And so I would love to hear a little bit about that process because nobody really says, oh, me, I would like to have resume on my agenda for today, but both of you did it anyway. So will you speak to what that was like? I think we try to make it a little bit easier for you all as first years. Could you speak to that and the resources you use?
Yeah, the Wake Your Resume session was really helpful, especially for me, because it allowed me to go in and talk with members of the OPCD directly. And they were able to sit with me, go through my resume. They helped me to figure out how different experiences, how to phrase them, what they meant, maybe just some things that I like didn't even realize could be on my resume. They helped me to talk through and work through and add. And I'm really happy that I was able to do that. And now I feel a lot more confident now that I have a resume and I have a tangible piece of evidence that I can use in the future.
I'll just add on a little bit to that. Same thing as Anna, Kate. We went in and did our resumes and stuff. And I wanted to just elaborate that, like, it's not just the kids in the classes from the OPCD. Like, I recommended it to all my friends, and then they go to like different Wake Your Resume sessions. So it's really open to anybody who wants to do it.
I
And
am so, oh, go ahead, Anna Kate.
also so many resources on the OPCD website. You can get lost in there. So just like go on, tell your kids to go on there and they will get lost because there is so much that it's almost overwhelming, but it's such a gift and it's so helpful.
I love that you said that. It does take some time. It's nice to walk through it alongside your peers. And Mazen, I'm so glad you mentioned the idea that anyone can go to Wake Your Resume, which happens twice a week, once online on Tuesdays and once in person on Wednesdays, and absolutely a place for everyone to be. As we close our time, I know that the two of you both have some other things that you have to do this evening, but I wonder before we go, if the two of you would each share a piece of advice for parents of other first years.
I can go first. Whether or not like your student like decides to do an OPCD class, I think they should definitely go through Handshake. Handshake is like I still haven't realized it all, but Handshake's like a crazy tool. There's like different career postings and a bunch of different employers will like send messages to you personally. And there's also so many different events that like I think it's like multiple a day. Like there were like 4 or 5 events a couple of days ago when I was going in to sign up, and then they always have different companies and employers coming out for information sessions that I think most people are all welcome to join. So definitely give Handshake a look. I think that's one of the most coolest resources that they have.
Definitely agree with that. And then one other thing would just be to take it one step at a time because a lot of it is out of our control right now. We're still very early in the process. One thing that I learned from taking this EDU 120 class is to set long and short-term goals, things that I can be focusing on right now, and also long-term goals that will hold me accountable while not letting myself get too overwhelmed. And just remembering that it's all going to work out in the end and nothing is set in stone and you can always change your mind.
Anna Kate, Mazen, thank you both for being with us. There really is no one else better to tell the student story than students. Thank you both for being with us. I will see you both soon, I hope.
Wow, Anna Kate, Mazen, thank you so much. We couldn't have said it any better. And I'm really glad that you've had such a wonderful experience and you're really taking advantage of all the resources that Wake Forest has to offer. So thank you, Heidi, for bringing your delightful students to our little classroom right here. Maybe you could actually speak for 1 second about Career Corps as ways students can actually get access to the career course material in case they can't get to the classes or they want to get started on their own.
I really appreciated that Mazen spoke to the idea that you do not have to be in a course to come into the OPCD. There are so many ways to connect and just get started. Anna Kate said that well, just do one small thing, one step. And Career Corps is one of those opportunities. Students can sign in through our website. It's a self-paced career course in many ways. It is a way for students to go ahead and get started for themselves and jump in where they are curious. If they're interested in understanding their own interests, that's a place that they can begin in a module, or they can do the module on going ahead and thinking through their first resume. Wherever it is that your student finds themselves on that spectrum, there's a spot in Career Corps for them to jump in.
Thank you, Heidi. So for those of you out there who may have seen, like in our webinar chat, Patrick has listed all of the different like resources that are based on the conversation we just had. So if you haven't had the time to click on all of them, you can actually go to that webinar chat, and there are 3 buttons on the bottom right where I think it says you can save the chat if you want to have that for later. It'll be in your like a file folder, and you can open it and be able to click on those things and share with your student as you feel is most appropriate. So this is a good way for us just to wrap up with a final thought or word. So Mercy, first, any word of advice or thought that you might have about this evening, and also any just a thought you might want to give to those first-year parents out there?
One of the things that we most commonly hear from students is they feel like they have to have everything figured out before they come see us or before they come attend a career fair. And just a shout out to our students today who actually took the plunge, came to the career fair, and really had an awesome experience and learned a lot. And that's really what I think all 4 years at Wake Forest are about, is about learning, but in particular, taking some risk and just knowing that we're here to support you and you do not have to have it all figured out.
Great. Thanks, Mercy. How about you, Heidi?
Our students, your students, are thinking a lot about these different pieces of their experience related to their career. And though we are talking about it in the first year, I would say students just really need to have the understanding that you're there to support them. They want to go ahead and get these different milestones behind them, and they want to go ahead and figure these things out. What they really need to do is remember that they've got a lot of runway. And so to the degree, open conversations about what you thought about as a parent, but when you were 19 or 20, and the fact that we didn't have it all figured out then either, that can be really helpful and normalizing for students, that you remember what it was like and that they will figure it out too.
Yeah, I can double down on exactly what you said. And what I think is just so fun about the work that we do is that we get to see students grow in their 4 years here, from honestly sometimes being like little kids to full-blown mature adults. And what I sometimes say is they go from like being someone who is just someone's child to actually trying to figure out how to become the CEO of their own lives. And so for the parents, they have to figure out like, so that's actually the process. And that's what I want them to be, is be able to make their own individual decisions, be independent thinkers, gather information, be connected to a lot of people, take advantage of all that Wake Forest has to offer. The role I have to play is to figure out, how do I help get them to see that's what we want them to do without it feeling like I'm forcing them to do it, or that I have some control over that. Because another thing that I see sometimes is the light. You never know what's going to come on, and that you wish it always comes on earlier. You see some students where it comes on really early. Why isn't my student like that? We know this phrase, the comparison is the thief of all joy. It's like, I'm just happy I have a student who's at Wake Forest, not that they need to be like better than anyone else. It's actually, they're going to get there. I will just trust us. Like, we've seen it so many times where a student who literally like early in the semester is feeling lost, and like, just like the students you saw today, like they walk into class or they have a conversation with their faculty member, they come in with a coach, and all of a sudden it's like, I figured out what I want. I'm more clear about it. I can talk about it. That can take time, but it also can happen like in an instant. And so we get to see that. It can be hard, but they definitely want to know. I think all students generally want to please their parents. And so knowing that you feel like you trust them, that they can figure it out. Like Betsy Chapman writes in the Daily Deke, the more that you can just keep on saying, who can you talk to at Wake Forest? I can help you think about this. If you know nothing about it, know that we're here to help them. So anyways, I just want to say, just be encouraging, trust them, trust the process, and believe in us. Like, we love your students, and we're so happy that they're at Wake Forest. We love working at Wake Forest, and we're here there for them. So thank you for joining us. Heidi, you want to add one last thing? I thought you might. Okay.
Oh, just that we're grateful that your student is here, and we want to be alongside them as they explore. And what we really want for them is to have a great first semester and a great first year. And when they are ready, we'll meet them where they are.
That's right. First year is definitely all about learning how to be a really great, successful, comfortable college student. Find their friends, be a great student, and the career stuff will come. and it'll come along the way, and they'll be in it as long as they're doing a little bit all the way along. We can help them with that. So anyways, thank you. We just really appreciate your joining us tonight. Please share this link when you get it with your other, friends and families out there who are first year students, because I'm sure all of them are wondering, like, what should my student be doing? And we are really excited to be, again, here to help them. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully whenever you come to campus. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.